Good morning. This is John Betts. I will be doing my section of What's New in Minerals Part 2. For those of you that haven't participated in the Rochester Symposium in the early years, after Jeff did his presentation of beautiful photographs, there would always be a panel discussion, and the panel usually just consisted of Bill Pinch, George Robinson, Van King, and other people rotated in each year. This was a really valuable panel discussion. Of course, it preceded PowerPoint, but it was a lot of good information about what was new in the mineral world. And so we've tried to continue that in recent years. With me covering New England with the help of Jim Nizimoff, Mark Jacobson covering Colorado, Ray McDougall covering Canada, and of course we overlap. And in assembling my part, I've reached out to a lot of people. I want to thank the 8 people below that let me some photos and helped contribute to the narrative. So I'm not going to do it alphabetical like Jeff did. I'm trying to put it into some sort of narrative. I'm going to start with these turgite specimens, iridescent, usually a purple to yellow to bluish iridescence out of Pahang, Malaysia. I'm labeling them as hematite because the streak, in a simple test, gives a classic red brown, which is equal to hematite. It's not the yellow brown that you would associate with goethite. And these were available in large numbers from Jewel Tunnel imports in Tucson this year. This one is 4 centimeters across. Here's one that's 5 centimeters across. So there was some discussion about whether the iridescence was natural. On freshly exposed surfaces, like the central corner here that was chipped off, you can see that it's a fresh silver metallic or gray metallic color, and it lacks the iridescence. And so that would suggest that it was natural, in the sense that if it were unnatural, if it was a coating that had been part of a chemical process, let's say, that the iridescence would cover the fresh crack. However, if it cracked after the treatment, then it would expose a fresh surface and it wouldn't have an iridescence. The consensus is they probably are real. However, there were so many other turgite specimens from other localities in Tucson this year. It was a little troubling. And here's one room alone with 2 different localities represented. On the top shelf was the Burkett Bessie location in Malaysia, which iron mine, with very, very vivid iridescence. And on the same display was from the Dai mine in Hubei, China, similar iridescent turgites. I'm really troubled by the level or the intensity of the iridescence and the fact that they're showing up all at once. And I'm also reminded of the Sweetwater mine chalcopyrites that, as a result of being cleaned in whatever solution was being used, that it induced an iridescent luster on the chalcopyrites. And so I wonder honestly if all of these turgites showing up are natural. Just covering a few things that aren't natural for the time being before I get into what's new. There were a number of large carved garnets from India. One at least was as big as a basketball, and I can tell you that garnet is quite heavy, and a basketball-sized garnet was it weighed a good 20 pounds. But they're basically are either repolishing or carving them right out of massive andradite or almandine, and creating good fakes of garnet. There's a lot of debate about whether these are natural. These are interconnected spherical formations of fluorite from India. The supplier, Hemant Merchant at Mineral Decor, swears that they're legitimate. However, even the regular spherical fluorites, they are heavily enhanced by soaking in paraffin, which fills in the porousness of the nature. And if you've ever seen the spherical fluorites that have not been treated, they're porous white. Sometimes they've been oiled, the oil will drain away, but the smart treatment is to use paraffin. Well, so to some level, they are fake. Those are fake because the translucency isn't natural. I really wonder about these formations in the case of the three interconnected. It's not a tight joint where the two spheres join, which you would expect. There's a radius to it, and it's troubling that I could be convinced that these are fake also. Definitely a fake, and thanks to Neil Lepescu for pointing this out, are fabricated amethyst scepters. They are basically taking amethyst crystals and drilling holes and placing clear crystals on their base. I'm intrigued by how they're doing that, because they've got a flat end to the drill hole. Whether they're using a flat end milling bit, it just doesn't seem quite natural. Anyway, it is recognized that these are fakes, so be careful about those. So let's get to what's new. As you know, I always show photos of what Mike Paletto's been collecting in Connecticut. He continues to come up with good pieces, but for the sake of his privacy and to avoid claim jumpers, I don't even discuss his locations, but suffice it to say that he's making a real dent in field collecting in Connecticut. In Maine, John Whitney and Jim Dagno are mining the Willisporium topsum, and they came up with this large columbite crystal. It is still for sale at this time, though I think that it should end up at the Maine Mineral and Gem Museum. Let's hope that that it finds its way to a museum that will put it on display. That is quite impressive for columbite. John Sassi over at the Magna Futura mine is continuing to mine. The big news this year is that he is going to partner with Jeff Morrison, who is going to come in, and they're going to do some serious excavation, blasting, and drilling and blasting. And they have a lot of potential showing. I'll just show you a few of the almandine crystals. He's getting them up to 35 millimeters. They are being found in the matrix and being separated. So sometimes a corner gets left in the surrounding matrix when he removes them. They're quite well formed, showing the classic stepped edges. The edge is composed of many parallel dodecahedral faces stacked up, and that's not unlike what we see out of Pakistan, Afghanistan. Here's a 35 millimeter crystal. Nice clean crystals. He's also getting beryl. And so this new work this coming summer, there's hope that bigger and better and better quality will start to appear. In Arizona, in the area near Tombstone, in what's known as what's being called the Second Chance Mine, J.R. Geo is coming up with fluorite clusters. This one's about 10 centimeters across and associated with quartz. This is a nice vertical cluster, a little bit bigger than 10 centimeters. And these were new in Tucson at a fringe show that a few people attended. Blake Barnett acquired a large find of onagites, which is hair-like inclusions of goethite and amethyst that were collected by Adam Sotomayor. And he was marketing those usually through his Facebook page, but they're quite good pieces for Colorado in what's being called the Maconite number 8 mine, Teller County. In Mexico, as Jeff mentioned, the Zinco olivinite find at Milpias. I guess it goes without saying, Milpias is open again, in case anybody didn't know it. I think 2 years ago, the big news was Milpias is closed, too expensive to mine. Well, things change, and so Milpias is open one more time. This is a cluster. The zinco olivinite was available in 2 different habits. One, larger, more distinct individual crystals clustered together, and then these clustered hemispherical aggregates of many crystals. Here's one 6.5 centimeters across. This is the same specimen with dark lighting, and here is one of the spheres where you can see all of the surfaces are made up of subparallel crystals, and it's a translucent green color. Nearby in Rancho Jacalito, shattuckite with overgrowths of quartz that grew on a earlier generation of greenish chrysocolla. The specimen's 40 millimeters across, but very nice, colorful clusters with crystals up to 10, the quartz crystals up to 10 millimeters, and microscopic shattuckite. Collector's Edge and Luis Barrio and many other people are coming up with these, what's just being referred to as Cochabamba Department, Bolivia. They're large fluorapatite crystals with siderite and quartz crystals. This one was probably 20 centimeters across at Collector's Edge. Here's another one. This one has a prominent Japan Law twin in the upper, just right of center. You can see the twin on the top. And the color was difficult to capture on the fluorapatites, but it's a very nice pink. John Rackavan on Mindat has the locality listed as the Simon Patino adit at the Cami mine. I have to say, I didn't find that reference any other place, and certainly it wasn't on the dealer's labels that I was able to find. So we can all ask John for that at the end. Neil Lupescu found these from Luis Barrio, epitaxial overgrowth of galena on pyrite crystals. Here you can see the underlying cubic pyrite with the overgrowth of the galena. It shows mostly in the upper right. Certainly that isn't an unheard of formation, and even not from Huanzala, but these were new specimens that were just available in Tucson this year. Jewel Tunnel resurrected a older find of rhodolite garnet from the Fazenda Rodolita, which is translates as the rhodolite farm, with this is a 6.5 centimeter specimen with nicely developed translucent sort of purple red rhodolite garnets or almandine variety rhodolite. Here's a close-up of a 35 millimeter crystal, and you can see it on some of the thin edges. You get a better sense of the transparency of the rhodolite. Moving over to Ireland, the prolific father and son team, the Lawsons, John and Robert Lawson, came up with some nice grossular garnets with crystals up to 31 millimeters. And on the surface of the garnets is an overgrowth of Vesuvianite. So this is a skarn deposit in County Donegal. This one's 24 millimeters across. This one's 31 millimeters across. And you get a sense on the close-up view of the face that the garnet faces are all small parallel faces and in parallel orientation with the Vesuvianite overgrown on top of the Vesuvianite, sort of a yellowish green microcrystal. The Lawsons also came up with the Laharan quarry in County Cork, Ireland, a new find of wavelite. These were quite good quality. They actually were probably found 2 years ago. That's when they first told me about them, but I wasn't able to get any of them until this year. So this one is 3.4 centimeters across and with spheres to 9 millimeters. Here's the one on the left is 5.5 centimeters across, and the one on the right is about 23 millimeters end to end. Jordi Fabre, we're moving to China now. He has a good source of unusual Chinese minerals. He was very kind to make suggestions as to what should be included. Excuse me. Unfortunately, many of them have already been published. And so if it's been published in Mineralogical Record or similar magazines, I had to be pretty selective and edit a few of these out. Excuse me. So this is this bluish green, light blue green aragonite on an earlier generation of dull green calcite. The specimen is 12 centimeters high. He had a number of these available in different habits. This one is 7.1 centimeters across. At Zhubading, China, he got, I think in April 2022, schistosite on kesterite crystals, which is on a matrix of muscovite. The schistosite is the greenish coating on the kesterite. The specimen is 4.6 centimeters across. In Lanping, China, in Yunnan, China, Jordi had talmasite coating on calcite. It's a pinkish talmasite coating on the underlying calcite crystals. The specimen is 5.7 centimeters across, with the detail in the upper corner probably maybe only 2.5 centimeters across. Here's the same talmasite coating on calcite. This specimen is 8.5 centimeters from corner to corner, and it's associated with cobalt-rich calcite, it looks like. Jordi also had this one specimen of chalcopyrite on calcite, but it had this unusual metallic iridescence that was a reddish purple color, and with hints of the yellow metallic iridescence coming through that he acquired in spring of 2022. This specimen is 4 centimeters tall. And as part of the same find, though, were similar, what you would expect normally iridescent, sort of a greenish yellow iridescence of chalcopyrite over the calcite. This specimen is 6.4 centimeters across, two views of the same specimen. In the Hushu mine, Jiangxi, China, there was a fairly large parcel of twin sphalerite crystals. They're repeatedly twinned. The two lower pictures are, the right picture is sort of rear illuminated along the edge of the sphalerite, and the left is more normal illumination. And this specimen is 8.4 centimeters across that Jordy acquired at Samarie last year. Here's a similar piece from the find. I particularly like the upper right corner where you have a twin crystal coming out of a larger crystal. This specimen is 8.7 centimeters tall. And at Xinhualing, or Shanwaling, Jordy had several small specimens of laracanite. They maxed out at about 2.5 centimeters across. So these are not big specimens and not huge crystals, but very colorful or very rich for the species. Here's in the lower right, this laracanite held between two fingers. So you get a sense of how small this specimen is, but the photo above shows that the laracanite crystals are quite distinct and well crystallized and visible. Here's the Lanping, Yunnan, China, the cobalt-bearing calcite with this rich pink color, with an overgrowth. I think it was that bluish white aragonite, but more of the cobalt-bearing calcite. This one's 6.6 centimeters across. Moving around the Pacific Rim, in Indonesia were new chalcedony overgrowths over blue crystal and metallic copper. You can sort of see the reddish metallic in the two deep spheres. These were available from Brazarte Minerals, and this one's about 5 centimeters across. Here's a similar one with more of the blue showing, less of the copper. In Australia, Patrick Gunderson has spent the year working what's known as the Great Australian Amethyst Mine in Western Australia. This is a single cavity. Once they exposed it all, it was all interconnected, measuring 4.5 meters across. So we're talking 14 feet by 3 meters wide, and with an estimated weight of 21 tons. He kept it intact for as much as he could. It is quite a curiosity, and it's beautiful quality amethyst. Here's a sample of that rich purple color, large crystals. It's a remarkable deposit. Wish I could get something like that. I don't have the sizes. You can see Patrick's posts under the Australian Minerals group on Facebook, and they are just it's an amazing find, and I think it's great they're coming out. Moving to Africa, brand new location in Niger, the Berger in the Aïr Massif. New location for amethyst. The left picture is 14 centimeters across, and the right photo is 8.2 centimeters high. Rich purple color. Not many of them available, but Jordy had a few. They of course I'm sure they've all sold by now. In Namibia, Orongo produced these wonderful complex fluorite crystals that are twinned following the spinel law of twinning, that have a purple surface coating, and they are in intersecting pairs here's two photos of the same specimen. On the left, you get a sense that there's two crystals intersecting at a oblique angle. One that is reflecting, and the other is sort of transparent on the left photo, and on the right you hopefully see the twinning there. This specimen's about 5 centimeters high. Very interesting, and they formed other bizarre sort of V-shaped twins. In Morocco and Aole in the McDougall district, microcline with quartz coming out new. Nobody ever thinks of microcline coming from this area of Morocco. The specimen is 5.8 centimeters across. So quite a few of them have been found. Here's another one, 12 centimeters across, with bladed white barite on the right side, and the quartz crystals visible, but with the reddish brown microcline visible in the center. Jeff mentioned the naturalite from Tyrist that Spirifer Minerals got a parcel of. They are naturalite with calcite, and the matrix is usually analcime crystals. This specimen is 4.2 centimeters high, and again, they're available from Tomac at Spirifer Minerals, or they were available when they first came out. Here's the same find with associated with calcite. Hand is the best best there for scale. No dimension was listed when Tomac offered them for sale, or at least there's a very nice report that he has on his website about the find. In Tisaf, Morocco, new locality nobody's heard of before for vanadinite. It reminds me of the endlichite habit, the very elongated groups of parallel crystals. The specimen is 6.5 centimeters across. You get a sense that they have hoppered terminations, but you also have these multiple striated groupings of multiple crystals. These were available at Sainte Marie last year. Here's another one, 7.3 centimeters across. Very attractive specimens. Spirifer Minerals also came up and has an article about it on their site of the yellow zircon crystals on agerine. This one on the left is 5.1 centimeters high. Nice contrast of the yellow zircon against the black agerine. And these are associated with andradite, which forms dark green dodecahedral crystals, magnetite, which is the black metallic octahedrons, and fluorocalciopyrochlore, which are these triangular brown crystals. Laurent Thomas at Polychrome had a find that he's referring to as firefly quartz. These are quartz crystals with large petroleum-filled cavities in them with movable bubbles. I don't know if you can see right in the middle of the left image is a visible bubble. There's another big one in there that is very apparent when you move it around. This is a 40 millimeter crystal. And these fluoresce under ultraviolet, as you would expect anything with a hydrocarbon in it. And there are many other bubbles. The arrows are pointing to some of the bubbles that are visible in this crystal. Laurent also came up with a new find, and I guess Jeff mentioned it, crystal barrel crystals, 6-ling twin. This one's 25 millimeters across from Madagascar. Nice, clean 6-link twins. And the highlight is a new locality. Laurent has had sapphirine before, but this is a new location, and these are crystals in biotite. This specimen is 44 millimeters across with crystals to 25 millimeters. Very nice specimens for the species. And he had a number of, from near Maro Volavo, Madagascar, Japan law twinned quartz with overgrowth of amethyst. But the size is what is quite distinctive. This is 9.5 centimeters across from end to end. Very nice, big twin with surfaces covered with parallel crystal overgrowth. And they're small, what appears to be iron oxide crystals, hematite, goethite, that are just barely visible in these photos. Here's an up-close version of the termination. Jordi in the Canary Islands, which is part of Spain, came up with several twinned calcites. This specimen is 5 centimeters high that he got at Sainte Marie 2022. They are contact twinned through the middle with, you can see right at where the two corners join, a little bit of reentrant faces there. This one is 5 centimeters high. And this is from the Tassarte ravine on Grand Canary Island. Moving to India in Deshgan in Madhya Pradesh, which is not the normal area for zeolites over in Maharashtra, were mesolite crystals on, it was unsure what the early growth was that was orange, and just before Tucson, at least one report came back that they tested as heulandite. The specimen is 6.2 centimeters across with mesolite crystals to 10 millimeters long. That these were available from Sammy Mackey at Matrix India Minerals. The specimen is 3.5 centimeters across. And then closing with the biggest news of the year, there were at least 3 pockets found at the Empire State Zinc Mine, which was in Balmat, which is the old ZCA number 4 mine. It's now been, it's under new management, and they produced pockets of large calcite crystals that were varied from purple to pink to colorless calcite, many twinned following the Rossi habit. And they were available from Rocco, who had them at the Springfield show, and then later at Denver. The New York State Museum acquired a large parcel. Mike Walter at Geologic Desires acquired a parcel. And unfortunately, the early ones found were collected by the miners, and they didn't know how to collect calcite and protect them adequately during extraction. And the best pocket finally came at the 3981 pocket, I think, when Mike Walter was actually able to go in and assist in the extraction and protect the crystals immediately and pack the cavity as they were prying loose the crystals. And so he was able to get some fairly good quality with minimal damage, though many of them are damaged. Mike reports that he tried some of them in, I guess it was daylight, and the color did in fact fade, and he reported it faded fairly quickly. And so they should be kept in the dark, and you should definitely not use fluorescent lighting to illuminate them. This shows one of the twins. This is still that 1981 pocket. And then Neil Lepescu has these photos of the specimen showing the twinning. I believe the one on the right is Neil's studio photograph, and the one on the left is his photo from the display in Tucson. So in my experience, the one on the left is more representative of the true color. But I actually think the better specimens for collectors from the mine are from the 3800 level pocket of sphalerite, which was gem grade, flawless. This is a 19 millimeter specimen. And if you've ever seen sphalerite faceted, it makes just a gorgeous gemstone. And these were mostly available from Rocco, and with large windows of gem quality. That's quite a find. And with that, I'm going to end. Thank you to everyone for the use of your photos. And sadly, this will be the last time that we have this presentation. I'll be looking forward to getting my month of April back, but it's been a good run, and thank you everybody for listening.
Good morning. What I'd like to report on this morning is on some of the things that have been found in the Colorado area. There hasn't been as much new activity in new areas as in years previous, but there has been a few new discoveries in known areas, as well as one new discovery of garnets from an area that has never been looked at before. And I'm going to go through these particular discoveries in the following slides. One locality that was described in the 1997 Minerals of Colorado is the turret locality for corundum. Several local collectors have been putting in extra effort to find larger and better groups of these crystals and have been successful. Here you can see a smallish specimen with significant sized blue corundums. None of them are gem quality, but they do make very attractive specimens. A completely new locality has been found by long-term local prospector Jessica Fouch, who lives in Gunnison, Colorado, and she focuses on Western Colorado as well as Arizona and Utah localities. She's located a metamorphic schist in the area north of Gunnison itself, and has, as you can see, found what look like almandine garnets in mica schist, and they range all the way up to individual crystals would be up to 1 inch, but most of them are all in the 1/2 inch to 1 inch category, and they've been for sale in the September show, and also were being sold again during the spring show in Denver. During the summer of 22, on a sublease from Russell Painter on the Amazonite number 8 claim, 2 local prospectors, Zach and Josh, were using a small backhoe and started opening up a large microcline albite pocket. A lot of the microclines have just slight albite overgrowth on them, and that little square black object in the center of the picture is a cell phone, to give you an idea of the scale. This was when they were in the early stages of opening up the pocket, so that they were still digging at the time I visited them. Here's a close-up of the largest one, and as you can see, it's not Amazonite, it's just flesh-colored microcline with the uncleaned reddish lower luster material is all albite overgrowths, coarse-grained albite overgrowths on the microclines. Here we are, the 2 of them sitting in the pit while they're still digging, and as you can, in a little bit dark, you can see the open pocket between the two of them. Now, on the block of Cardwell claims, a large consortium of collectors all digging on their own labor for the privilege of earning 50% of everything they find has been worked. Chris Kilman, who has been mining off and on the Cardwell block of claims, hit a in-place pocket this time. And here you can see the view into the pocket of the loose and sometimes fastened aquamarines, a few smoky quartzes, and the whitish microclines. The pocket was quite productive in terms of aquamarine. And here you can see Chris Kilman poking into the picture, and you can see what the pocket looked like when it was first opened up. It's in place, still within the granite, and from this he got quite a handful of, well, more than a handful of gemstock aquamarine, which was shared with Craig Cardwell. In a separate pocket that Chris Kilman opened up, he found that the very late stage part of the pocket was just absolutely covered with this the yellowish fine grained smaller crystals, which has only occurred, has been found once or twice before, and has been analyzed in the past as stellarite, the calcium zeolite end member. And here's a cluster of, and to confirm this, we did take some of the small crystals and grind them up and show here that, as you can see, we're matching the stellarite pattern absolutely. But the knowledge that it's stellarite and not stilbite comes from previous analyses that confirm the high calcium content of the zeolite. Here is a close-up, macroscopic close-up of the stellarite crystals coating the microcline and albite and smoky quartz. As you can see, they're very, very finely crystallized. If you used microphotography, these crystals would be absolutely spectacular looking. And there's several beer flats of this material was recovered that have been appearing now on the market for sale in the Denver area. With that concludes the new things that I've seen in Colorado this past year. And thank you for your attention.
Hi, everyone. I don't have too many things to add for what's new. A couple of things internationally. I'm only adding one thing from Canada. It's not a reflection of how well things went last year in Canada. There were some very nice mineral specimens of various minerals collected, various localities, but tried to limit things to things that are new or different. And so I just have one that I'd like to focus on as a Canadian, and then a couple of other internationals to look at as well. I'd like to start with the one Canadian item. Of course, chabazite from Wasson's Bluff is anything but new. Wasson's Bluff is world famous for chabazites going back to the 19th century. Some of the world's best chabazites, no question, colorful, many different hues and styles. But there was a little vein. It has actually been known for years, but has produced very few specimens that would ever be considered fine mineral specimens. And what is cool about it is the nature of the penetration twinning. And this is an example here. It's very equant, and if you hold the specimens a certain way, in this case, you can see there's an equator almost running along from upper left of that crystal down and to the right. They're very Goldschmidt looking things and very cool. They have extra forms on them, not just a simple pseudo rhombohedral crystal, and that is part of what gives them their attractiveness. And here's another one, and you can see what I mean with the crystal at the top. It's also, this stuff's actually kind of tough to photograph, but if you sort of look at that photograph carefully, you can see that each of the chabazites there are actually beautifully equant penetration twins with extra forms on them. Internationally, I'd just like to highlight a couple of things. First, from our friend Knut Eldjarn in Norway, great collector and a great eye for things that are new and different. This tantalite, mangano tantalite from Rio Grande do Norte in Brazil is a beautiful, sharp specimen. Really, really nice. Not much is currently known about the find, but wanted to highlight it for you as it's a really good crystal. The second one, also from Brazil, is from Rio Grande do Norte, from Canute, is a great columbite crystal, really, really sharp and nice. And again, we don't really have much about it yet, about this find. If anyone knows more, they can add it in the chat, of course. And but a really neat specimen I thought you should see. And the other international occurrence I'd like to speak a little bit about, these are wonderful specimens. And I just want to talk a little bit about the locality. There are actually two locality names and labels now, and I thought I'd help clarify and explain the current status because something has changed for the better. The Chibuku mine in Zimbabwe has been producing these beautiful scepters. Some are amethystine, some smoky, with inclusions. These deposits have been known for, or this larger deposit has been known locally for at least 2 decades, probably longer than that. It was collected locally, so recovery of surface specimens is really started out by hand by the indigenous Shangaan people. And first more involved workings were in 2012, still mostly hand tools, loose crystals. And the specimens have been, from the earlier workings, have often had some issues with them. They've often had damage and they've been, because they've been loose and collected that way. And that's made them perhaps the subject of less focus than I'm going to give them now. There were originally 2 partners and the land is now divided. So when that division happened, the 2 localities became known as the Shangani mine on the one side and the Chibuku mine on the other side. And I thought I'd tell you about the origin of the Chibuku mine name, because I think it's a great one. One of the principals running the mine has told me that the name refers back to the earlier times of local specimen recovery. At that time, the collecting work was done mostly by the women of the community, and men from the community were often seen sitting about drinking locally brewed Chibuku beer, and not digging. The mine name is therefore a laugh, and also in that light can be seen as a tip of the cap to those hardworking early diggers whose efforts first brought these specimens out. And the Chibuku mine operations are currently run by 2 principals, Sultan and Baba, as a professional specimen mining operation. So what's interesting about this is that coming out of the shutdown in November, there were new mechanized operations introduced with drilling and blasting for specimens. So with this professional specimen recovery now, we're seeing some specimens that are quite spectacular. Many specimens still have some issues, but the best of the best are really great pieces. So I'm just going to show a few because they're great specimens to look at, and I'll run through them quickly. Here's a pretty large scepter. It's pristine at the top. Beautiful piece, smoky. The photograph doesn't show quite how amethystine that tip area is, but it is deep violet. At least at this point, matrix specimens have been very rare. But here's a nice one, again with scepters, and you can see some amethystine quartz both at the tips and in the scepter stem. I mentioned the color can be quite spectacular, deep, vibrant purple. And I also mentioned looking more closely, the zoning in these can be spectacular. This one you can see is a purely smoky head. It's not amethystine at all. There are some inclusions if you look at it closely, but this is a beautiful specimen, but it's also very interesting because it's doubly terminated, and we can speculate a little bit more from this specimen about the growth sequence of these specimens. With this specimen, the head of the scepter is most deeply amethystine at the terminations and lighter in the middle. The stem is also slightly amethystine, very sharp piece. And one more exhibiting that same phenomenon where the tips are actually deeply amethystine. But in this particular specimen, the amethystine zone is rather thin. And then in the middle, the crystal is simply smoky with very little amethystine coloration at all. And something I really wanted to show you was what happens when you look a little more closely. Some of these specimens, not all of them, some of them have a large concentration of inclusions. So you can see this crystal has zoning in the middle, amethystine zones in the middle, but it also has, it's like hematite fireworks in there. And I'll show you a closer view. And when you look closely, you can really see the beautiful concentration of hematite inclusions in this specimen, along with the zoning. I should point out, by the way, that many of these crystals, if you look closely, do have two-phase inclusions with moving bubbles as well. I could get lost in these crystals all day. They are beautiful things, but here's a really great example of multiple stage amethystine phantom growth inside a crystal. And for my final image of these, I thought I would include an even closer view of the hematite inclusions, just so you could see how intricate they are. They are beautiful things, and Mary's specimen shows this really, really nicely. And with that, that's it for me for what's new for 2023.